Let's go ahead and look at adding these two fractions. We're going to add 6 and 2/8 plus 4 and 5/6. Now the first thing we need to do is find a common denominator. Anytime you add or subtract, you must have a common denominator. Now we do that by finding the LCM. So let's go ahead and write that down. Let's find the LCM of 6 and 8. Now there's various methods to find the LCM. Let's go ahead and use the list of multiples. Using list of multiples. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply by 6 and by 8 until it matches. So 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12, 8 times 1 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16. There still isn't a match, so let's continue. 6 times 3 is 18, 6 times 4 is 24, and there it is. So the LCM of 6 and 8 is 24. Now that we know our common denominator is going to be 24, we need to rewrite or rename each fraction with this new common denominator. Okay, so as I copy the fraction down, please remember that we put 1 and then the other one is underneath vertically. And so we do write our fractions vertically. Okay, common denominator we said is going to be 24. So I asked myself, 8 goes into 24 3 times. So I have to put 3 over 3, which represents 1. So 8 times 3 is 24. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, 6 goes into 24 4 times. This time my 1 is represented by 4 over 4. So 5 times 4 is 20. Now that we have renamed each fraction and found equivalent fractions, these two fractions are equivalent to each other, and these two fractions are equivalent, and we did that so that we could have a common denominator. The third thing we're going to do is we're going to add our numerators. So here in this fraction, I'm going to add 6 plus 20. So 6 plus 20 is 26. And notice that we keep our denominator 24, 24, 24. Let's not forget our whole numbers. 4 plus 6 is 10. The next thing we're going to do is simplify. We always simplify and reduce our fractions. Now the first thing I notice is that 26 over 24 is an improper fraction. An improper fraction is a fraction that's larger than 1, and we recognize it because the numerator is larger than the denominator, so we're going to have to divide. So we're going to divide 24 into 26 one time, and we're looking for a remainder of 2. So we write the remainder as a fraction. Now don't forget the 10 that I had earlier, so that gives me 11 and 2/24. But we're not done yet. I notice that I have a proper fraction, 2 over 24, and they both reduce by 2. So my GCF here is 2. One way of looking at this is that I notice that they're both even numbers, and even numbers are divisible by 2. So 2 goes into 2 one time, and 2 divides into 24 12 times. So my final answer is 11 and 1/12. So let's look at the steps we used. Anytime you're adding or subtracting fractions, you must find a common denominator. Here we use the LCM. to find our common denominator, and we used the list of multiples. Once we found our common denominator, we renamed each fraction with a new denominator, and then we were able to add our numerators. So 6 plus 20 is 26. The last thing you always do is simplify. In this case, we had an improper fraction. The numerator was larger than the denominator, so we divided, and we wrote our remainder as a fraction. So 10 plus 1 gives me 11. We looked one more time at our answer, and we noticed that both of these terms were even numbers, and so we divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 24 divided by 2 was 12, and we bring down the 11. So my final answer was 11 and 1/12. Take a few minutes and repeat this process several times until you're quite familiar with the steps, and I hope this video has helped.